What began as a season of triumph for Syracuse football has rapidly torpedoed into despair. The Cuse began 4-0 with tons of momentum heading into the Clemson game in late September. But after a frustrating loss to Dabo Swinney's squad, SU was run off the field at both North Carolina and Florida State. With the gauntlet of the schedule and now the bye week in the rear view, Syracuse has 5 chances to win 2 games to become bowl eligible. The first game of that home stretch is at Virginia Tech on Thursday night. The Orange will rumble into one of the cathedrals in all of sports and put whatever pride they have left on the line. It's Syracuse and Virginia Tech, and we're here to break it all down on Cuse Countdown. Let's rock.
Hello there and welcome into the CitrusTV studio alongside Sam Reis and Chilekasi Adele. I'm Austin Barach. Guys, SU was off with a bye last weekend, and you know what? Quarterback Garrett Schrader, he actually learned a couple more songs on the guitar. What was the coolest thing you guys did over the bye?
I went to Saratoga Springs for the first time.
Oh, that's nice.
Really beautiful. The foliage is definitely better than what we're seeing here in Central New York. Oh, yeah.
I went there over the summer. Great call, Chile. I more or less just sat on my couch, rested up for this AB.
No problem with that. Well, before we look forward to tomorrow's game at Virginia Tech, let's go back to the last time that SU and Va-Tech squared off. Just over 2 years ago, the Orange were 0-3 in the ACC, just like they are now, and came back down from 2 scores in the final 5.5 minutes to win the game. A thriller. Garrett Schrader, who had 3 rushing touchdowns in this one, hit a leaping Damian Alford in the final seconds for the go-ahead touchdown. Sam, this was quite the win for Syracuse, 41-36.
It really was a back-and-forth game. Plenty of drama in this one, Chile. And that game-winning catch by Alford, actually, with just 19 seconds remaining, was his only catch of the game, believe it or not. But great to see some familiar names this season making an impact a couple years ago. And this was actually a really good game from Garrett Schrader as well. He ran for over 170 yards, passed for over 230. Back-and-forth action and offensive display from both teams.
Listen, Sam, this is why I got to be a little bit negative here, right? Because I take this back from Dino Babers after the game. He said, and I'm quoting here, I really see this as being one of those moments that starts to change. I can't promise you it's going to change in W's and L's, but I can tell you it's going to change in everything else, end quote. The story of this game, Garrett Schrader and the offense were turning a quarter. Schrader, 5 touchdowns that day, rushed for 3, threw for 2. I don't know if you can really say the same right now. Where's the progression over the past couple of seasons?
It's really not been there too much, except for a few games here and there. The Purdue game definitely comes to mind. But fast forward back to right here, right now, October 2023. Both teams, Cuse and Va-Tech, were off on the bye last weekend, as we mentioned. But oh boy, did a lot of notable things happen around the rest of the ACC. Let's start with the biggest game. Number 4, Florida State outlasted number 16, Duke, 38-20. Chile, the Seminoles used a 21-0 fourth quarter to remain unbeaten.
Indeed, Austin. This was an FSU team that really pulled away at the end. You know, I had the little game 5 of the NLCS action, and they had this game on, and you see FSU starting to pull away. I think in this game, what was really interesting to me was Duke in terms of being stifled in the passing game. Yeah. Riley rendered 69 passing yards. Duke did a decent job in the rushing game, but really the FSU defense came up big there, Sam.
They really did, and that's what made it so surprising that Duke managed to hang in there and make this a game for so long, considering the passing game was basically non-existent for the Blue Devils. Syracuse experienced some of that Florida State stifling defense just a few weeks ago, and ultimately Seminoles getting the job done in that fourth quarter, taking off. I think FSU clearly the class of the ACC, and ultimately this was a game where they pulled away at the end, and it was a bit deceiving as to how close it was earlier.
Exactly right. It was a near upset in Tallahassee, but there was a true upset on Saturday in Chapel Hill. Previously, 1-win Virginia, as a, get this, 24-point underdog, beat Drake May and number 10 North Carolina 31-27. Sam, what happened here?
It's hard to explain, really, Austin. This came out of nowhere, Chile. I wouldn't have predicted this in a million years. This is a bad Virginia team, and this is a North Carolina team that was heading in the last weekend playing with a lot of confidence, still undefeated, and a big issue for the Tar Heels all day long was failure to convert on 3rd and 4th down. They were 3 for 14 on 3rd down, 0 for 2 on 4th down. Just very uncharacteristic overall. In the same breath, a lot of credit has to be given to the Cavaliers, who were down at halftime. And for a program that's been through a lot, massive win for them.
And for UVA, not clean at all, right? Fumbled the ball twice compared to no times for UNC, and still won this game. This was a good offensive game of football. I was really surprised by UNC. This is a program that was on the rise over the past couple of seasons, and this kind of tamps back a little bit, taking a look at this team. It is the first road win for UVA against the top 10 opponent in program history, and the first win over a top 10 team since beating FSU back in 2005. Rare air.
Wowza.
Yeah.
So UNC collapsed last Saturday, but let's shift focus to a program that has been on a noticeable collapse from the top tier of college football. Clemson. Last Saturday, the Tigers were a 6-point favorite at the Hurricanes and entered the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead. But Miami stormed back and triumphed 28-20 in double overtime to hand Clemson its third loss of the season. Already a third loss. That's incredible. This was a Tigers program that was competing for and winning national titles in the mid-2010s. Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney has routinely been against acquiring players in the transfer portal, and it seems like the consequences of that speak for themselves. So, Chile, when you look at the results from last Saturday, specifically for Clemson, what stands out?
You know what stands out to me? Frustration.
Yeah.
How did Syracuse lose to this team?
Right.
Miami was down 10 points in the fourth quarter without Tyler Van Dyke due to injury, ends up pulling it out in second overtime, and you watch the defense coming down big down the stretch for Miami, holding Clemson to 31 rushing yards on 34 carries. And you look at the passing game, Cade Klubnik he threw for 314 yards, only 18 completions throughout the course of the game, and Miami still finds a way to get it done. Clemson still lost. Again, I just keep on going back to that SU Clemson game. The hype, the build-up. We were out there doing live Cuse countdown that day, and Syracuse just failed in all cylinders of the game to have any sort of discipline, and that's what cost you games like this.
Now when you look back at that game, I agree. Very frustrating, and it's just so uncharacteristic for this Clemson team as well. A team that was outscored 10-0 in that final quarter, ends up losing in double overtime. This is now a 4-3 program under Dabo Swinney. Just at a loss for words, really. That's completely unexpected.
It really is. Clemson's in the rearview mirror, so let's shift focus to two teams who Syracuse is going to play. Boston College used a 21-0 fourth quarter to upend Georgia Tech 38-23. Sam, all of a sudden, the Eagles of Boston College have won 3 straight games.
Unbelievable, right? So many storylines around the ACC. Add this to the mix, and these are two teams, Georgia Tech and BC, that Syracuse has coming up. Both seemed like definitely winnable games, but all of a sudden, as Austin said, the Eagles, 3 wins in a row, they're 4-3. I thought a few weeks ago this was a 1 or 2 win team. This Eagles team was playing terrible at the beginning of the season in non-conference play. All of a sudden, some momentum on their side, and Thomas Castellanos, the quarterback, with a solid performance, over 250 yards in the air in this win.
Yeah, you talk about a 43-yard score on 4th down for Castellanos as well.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech absolutely imploded. BC scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter, and GT completely unraveling. You know, I find it interesting. Castellanos said after the game, we're turning this thing around. BC football is back.
Wow.
They're no longer the laughing stock of the league. I don't know how much we buy into that, but there's certainly some confidence on Chestnut Hill.
There definitely is. Elsewhere, the 5th game that happened, Pitt and Wake, I mean, there was a crazy finish to that one, and it leaves Syracuse as the only winless team in the ACC right now in conference play. And when you take a look at where all these teams in the conference stack up right now, Virginia Tech, who we're about to dive into later on, is just one of 5 teams above 500 in ACC play. So, Chile, what do you make of this conference right now?
You know, it's so interesting. There was so much hype with the ACC a few years ago with Clemson at the top of the pack. You can't really recognize this league from a football perspective anymore. There's a lot of changing winds going. Pittsburgh, who we expect usually to be all reliable, comes in this week 2-5 overall, 1-3 in conference play, and of course Syracuse in the bottom of the pack. I don't know what's going on anymore. It's hard to tell. It's hard to predict. But Florida State chugging away, 7-0 overall, 5-0 in conference play.
Yeah, I can't blame you for not knowing what's going on, Chile, because quite frankly, I don't either. We had Louisville with that hot start. They finally came back down to earth with a loss. But right now, at this moment, actually, no other team in the ACC besides Syracuse has lost 2 consecutive games. All the teams greatest losing streak is 1.
Wow.
Syracuse on a 3-game skid. A lot of shuffling taking place, Austin. I expect more of that down the final
Yeah,
stretch.
an absolute seesaw in this conference right there. Syracuse, you didn't even see them in that list, the top 12 in the conference, as we just alluded to. SU, 0-3, but they did have to play Clemson, UNC, and FSU, so it hasn't exactly been easy competition. But Sam, overall, it's not like the Orange have been top of the tier in the ACC for many years at this point.
That's true. I can't say, I guess, we're too surprised about the way the Syracuse season is panning out, because it's kind of the same story over and over again. When you're in a tough conference like the ACC, Syracuse proved the last couple of weeks against Florida State and North Carolina, they're nowhere near the top of the crop in the ACC. They're a middling team, mediocre, even to lower tier. That's where this team stands at the end of the day. Lack of offensive weapons, decimated offensive line. Defense has been all right. Secondary still gives me concern. Too many flaws for it to be competitive in this conference.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were very apprehensive after that non-conference schedule. I would be too. You cannot let that non-conference schedule fool you easily. Listen, I'm not asking for SU to go and upset everybody out there, but I'm asking for a competitive game. You know how hard it is to be at a sports bar and have a game on actual ESPN and have them turn it off and replace it with a Michigan football game? That's what happened to me in Ann Arbor a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
That's where Syracuse football is right now.
Really, really tough times for Syracuse football. That Chile anecdote speaks for itself. Fellas, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to break down the Hokies in just a moment.
Here's to the straggly ones, the first ones. Hey, I look good with this ones. The black, brown, red, and gray ones. The itchy ones. The ones grown by Dad. The ones grown for Dad. The I nearly didn't do it this year ones. And the absolutely filthy ones. They all raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations, and save lives. Because whatever you grow will save a bro. Learn more at Movember.com.
Welcome back. CC rolls along here in the Citrus TV studio. Austin Barach, Sam Reis, Chilekasi, Adele. Guys, it's time to talk Virginia Tech, and we'll start with the Hokies within the context of the transfer portal. Last season, Tech just won 3 games, but head coach Brent Pry got right to work. The Hokies got 9 incoming transfers and ranked 35th in the nation on 247 Sports' transfer rankings, the 4th best mark in the ACC. And guys, Sam specifically, let's start with Kyron Drones. He's from Baylor, transferred 5 starts last year. He's got a little bit of Garrett Schrader in him.
He does, and you read my mind there, Austin. Drones is someone who actually took over for the starter Grant Wells, who went down with an injury in the second game of the season against Purdue, and that's not easy, Chile, being thrown into that starter role, but he's taken over that role and has done a pretty solid job. As Austin mentioned, someone who really likes to run the ball. He's a mobile quarterback, only has 16 less rush yards than the rushing leader on the team, 91 carries for nearly 350 yards. There's definitely some Schrader there.
Yeah, 6 touchdowns passing this season, 4 rushing touchdowns. This kid's got a little bit of an arm. He had a 75-yard touchdown pass against Wake Forest a couple of weeks back, so it'll be interesting to definitely see how he fares against that SU secondary.
Sticking with the offense, guys, Jalen Lane's comes over from Middle Tennessee State, Chile. He leads this team in almost every single receiving category. What can you tell me about him?
How about a little change of scenery? It's interesting how you can go from the SEC over to the ACC and have a boatload of success. Excuse me, that's down. But listen, Lane is 21st in the ACC in receiving yards, 341. He caught that 75-yarder. That Drones threw against Wake Forest. Drones and Lane, they developed that chemistry. I'm not sure Schrader can really say. Listen, he comes off a huge year in 2022 at Middle Tennessee State. 940 receiving yards, that longest reception being 89 yards. Second team All-CUSA last season, 69 receptions, 4 100-yard games. This is a guy who's going to be good and who's going to torch Syracuse potentially on Thursday night.
Absolutely, Chile. It's one thing to be the leader in receptions and yards at a team like MTSU, but to do that in your first season with an ACC program, that's definitely saying something. And Austin, he had his biggest game last time out against Wake Forest, where he had over 100 yards. So could be running with some momentum heading into tomorrow night.
Definitely could be. Shifting focus now to the defense. Antoine Powell-Ryland from Florida caused a lot of havoc last time out against Wake Forest. 4 sacks, leads the Hokies with 7. Sam, he's a problem.
He is a problem. He's very familiar with the big stage as well. He played in every game for Florida last season, so he was ready coming in to make an immediate impact. His 7 sacks ranked second in the conference. Just 4 alone in last game against Wake Forest. He also has 3 forced fumbles, and against the Syracuse offensive line that struggled a lot, Chile, he could be a big problem. Expect him to find Schrader quite a bit.
So excited to talk about Powell-Ryland that I got a little bit ahead of myself over that. So listen, this is the example of a change of scenery. SEC to ACC, one of those cases where someone who couldn't excel in one of the best conferences in football but is having a time. 3 fumbles forced, 25 tackles, 4 sacks a couple of weeks ago against Wake Forest. He can completely take over a game, and with a Syracuse offensive line that has struggled, as we've talked about all over the course of this season, he could do some damage.
Well, there must have been a reason why all these guys transferred to Virginia Tech, and it's mainly because of head coach Brent Pry. For SU head man Dino Babers, Pry is simply a good dude. Take a listen.
Coach Pry is a different guy. I've had an opportunity to meet him. He's really cool. I like him. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to line up and want to, make sure that our teams do well, but I really like his personality, and I think he's someone that's going to do extremely well at Virginia Tech, and I know he's going to have his team ready to go.
I mean, Coach Babers and respecting the opposing coach, a tradition as old as time, guys. But Chile, in all sincerity, is Pry turning this Hokies program around?
Listen, it is an uphill battle. This is someone who's making a little bit of a return, worked as a defensive graduate assistant back in the late 90s. Listen, 3-8 last season, 1-6 in ACC play. They struggled on the road, 1-5 on the road, but there is still a lot of time for building. I think one of the issues with hitting the transfer portal is that you've got some guys who are a little bit older, so you have a little bit of an issue trying to build up, but you can definitely see the program and where the tides have changed in this program. You're seeing a team that's playing more hungry. You're seeing a team that is hanging up. I mean, again, you talk about his experience with Virginia Tech previously under former head coach Frank Beamer, and of course some experience at Penn State too, down at State College. So this is someone who's definitely battle tested. He's proven who he's coached with before, but now, again, it is an uphill battle to try and turn this team around, and he's definitely done it the right way by attacking that portal. It's the only way you can get it done nowadays.
That's right, Chile. And this is no Dino Babers, who has been around the block for a while. It's only his second season, so I completely agree. Got to give him a little bit of time in this conference, and I see what he's trying to do. I like what he's doing by going into the portal and finding his own guys to make an immediate impact. I think this program ultimately is trending in the right direction. Sure, it'll take some time. Brent Pry, also a guy who's been around for a while, a lot of defensive background too. So I think his defenses will eventually get better. Give it a year or two, and this Virginia Tech team, I think, is on the rise.
Yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day. Frank Beamer did a lot of good things for Virginia Tech Pride, trying to do his best to get back there. But we've hit another break. We're heading to the labs on the other side of it. Stay with us.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3.
you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome to my house. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The walls were closing in. Clearly a case of too much family, too close, 24/7. If this sounds like your house, try going someplace new. YourLifeYourVoice.org. You'll find lots of ideas to help you handle the family stresses of being confined to close quarters. YourLifeYourVoice.org. It could help you find a little more breathing room.
Welcome back, Chilekasi, Adele, Sam, Reis, Austin, Barach. Yes, I know I look ridiculous, but fellas, we're getting scientific now, and no, it's not a Walter White, Jesse Pinkman lab in an RV in New Mexico. That wouldn't be good for television here. But this is a much friendlier CC Labs. I'll throw out 3 statements about the Syracuse team and some of the concerns that have been presented over the first 7 weeks. And you guys will tell us the solutions that you have. So Sam, let's start off with you with the offensive line. It's an O-line that's looked really overwhelmed recently. Sam, what are you cooking up in the lab to fix this O-line?
I'm cooking up more cohesion for this offensive line, Austin. I get it. There's been a lot of injuries, but that's part of the deal. You have to expect linemen and football players in general to get injured. Of course, there's been a lot of moving pieces throughout the season on that front, but you have to adjust on the fly. It's too many times, too many games, Chile, where they just seem out of sorts. Better chemistry needs to be developed, and I think with what they have, it can still be better from this offensive line in terms of improving and protecting Schrader. They just seem too much out of sorts. That cohesion could go a long way.
And to add to cohesion, a non-steroid potion that would add 200 collective pounds. Listen, what the heck is going on with this O-line? 3rd in the ACC with 18 sacks given up. The offense sits in the middle of the pack in terms of rushing, 8th in the conference, 8th in passing offense, 2 in the conference. Guys gotta get deep and move dudes out of the way. That's what it comes down to. And it's not just your first blocks, it's your secondary blocks, it's your third blocks. It's getting upfield. Could we give them some more weight, please? I mean, I'll take some of mine. Come on, anything.
Chile, I don't even weigh 200 pounds. That's a lot of LBS right there. But let's go to another guy who is the subject of a lot of criticism. Jason Beck, the offensive coordinator. Chile, how does the play calling get more creative here?
Listen, I'm cooking up a little bit more aggressiveness, but it's something that you have to gradually move on. I will never forget the Clemson game. Sure. Sitting in the dome, and it honestly goes on both Jason Beck and Dino Babers. 57-yard field goal attempt would have been the 2nd longest in program history. And listen, 4th and 10. What in the world is going on? Here is my biggest concern with this team. Earlier on in the season, I've talked about it a lot, using Garrett Schrader and those fake handoffs so liberally. Sure. You can't give away the whole entire playbook that early in the season. You have to unravel. You have to let it move down the line. And it's actually more like aggressive, like I said. But also what's important is that you need that measure. You need aggressiveness, but you need measure. But I think first what Jason Beck really needs to do is focus on that aggressive nature. Go for it, man. You're not kicking a 57-yard field goal in college. It just doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't, Ryan. My answer is similar. I need to add some creativity to Jason Beck's decision making. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a team that has had basic play calling, time in, time out. And for an offense that's been struggling so much, why not add a little bit of trickery? If what's working isn't working, and you have the players you have that are clearly struggling, give me a flea flicker now and again. Absolutely. A shot downfield. Especially in these past few games where it seemed like they just threw the towel early and was way too basic, Austin. Give me some more creativity.
I'm right there with you. A flea flicker would be awesome to see against
Absolutely.
Tech. Last one here for you guys. Let's see what you cook up. Recruiting rankings. The recruiting staff has not done a great job the last 3 years. SU is bottom 3 per year in the ACC in recruiting. Sam, what's the solution to this big problem?
Well, some things all come down to money, and that's what I'm going with here. I don't care how hard you try to recruit, but at the end of the day, it's a big talking point, and it should be. Syracuse is in the middle of the ACC when it comes to their budget, and especially in the NIL era, you need to spend. You need to use that money to recruit players. Syracuse just doesn't have as much as the likes of Florida State, Clemson. If you give this program some more money, that could go a long way for this team in terms of recruiting.
Listen, Sam, I'm pulling this one out of nowhere. I want a one-way ticket to Newark Airport in New Jersey, and don't come back to bring me some recruits from Jersey. Listen, regional stuff matters. If you take a look at the Northeast in this beautiful video of me flying into Newark Airport back in 2019,
you shoot that show,
coming from the motherland, I don't know how. Listen, look at the states around you: Pennsylvania, Ohio, New Jersey. If you look at the grand scheme of things, the top two programs, probably Ohio State, followed by Penn State in that regard. No reason with the history of Syracuse football that shouldn't be third. You aren't getting the PA, the Ohio 5 stars. Go to Jersey. Go to Jersey all day long. Bank on it, baby.
Piscataway, stand up. That's good stuff, guys. But enough of these goggles. These were annoying. When we return, we got predictions. Stick around. Hey folks, welcome back into our CitrusTV studios. Chilekasi, Adele, Sam Reis, Austin Barach here wrapping up shop. So we know that both of these teams are coming off of bye week, but Sam, what does this mean? Does the bye week favor one team over the other?
I think it favors Syracuse a little bit, and the reason I say that is because looking back at the history, Virginia Tech has lost following a bye in every one of the last 5 years.
Wow.
And for Syracuse, it's been mixed results the last 5 years, but focusing on this season, the tough schedules behind them, a real chance to reset, recover from injuries, whereas Virginia Tech had a brief pause after those injuries.
Listen,
after that bye.
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse's record off the bye isn't that great either, but listen, I think these two schools are at a breaking point right now. For Syracuse, it's a chance to ease in and reset for the rest of the season. Winless in ACC play right now, but listen, they should get to the ACC the end of the season and almost win, if not all of these games. Virginia Tech, BC, Pitt, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, all winnable games for the Syracuse team. But for Virginia Tech, their season ramps up here. Beating Wake coming into this week may have helped them, but now they slow down. SU and their easiest opponent going forward is Boston College.
Chile, we kind of touched on this earlier, but what does the offense for Syracuse need to do, especially early on? It's been a tough watch as of late.
I think the offensive line needs to show up. I'd mentioned in the last segment over there, I think Syracuse will just scrape by. The problem is Garrett Schrader kind of looks like he's regressed a little bit. It's so clear that this offense isn't firing in all cylinders, but maybe a bye week doesn't fix that. I think Syracuse is really lucky that Virginia Tech's stats coming into this game aren't really much better. They haven't performed much better. This is a team that's 6th in the ACC in sacks against. Mind you, SU is 3rd, and they've allowed 22 of those this year, so SU could take advantage.
Listen, I'm not too high on the Syracuse offense at the moment for obvious reasons. Someone I am high on is LaQuint Allen. He was really the lone bright spot against Florida State. I expect him to have a really good game against Virginia Tech. Outside of that, a lot of question marks on this offense.
All right, Sam, put the money where your mouth is. LaQuint Allen have a good game. Does Syracuse win this game?
Yes. Syracuse pulls it out on a Thursday night in Blacksburg. I'm going 24-21. This is going to be a low-scoring affair. It's two mediocre offenses at best, but I think it comes down to the defense. The Syracuse defensive line has the edge.
Listen, Sam, I'm going a teeny bit higher here. SU wins 27-24. I think this is the battle of the bad, the battle of the mediocre. Both of these teams aren't really anything impressive, but similar to 2 years ago, I think SU finds a way to eke it out. Is it possible that I'm wrong? Sure. VT has definitely been the one playing better as of late, but I think Syracuse definitely is playing off the bye, and they have a chance here to make an opportunity and reset.
I got to switch it up, going Virginia Tech. It'll be a field goal game. 28-25 is my score. But folks, what a time. SU and VT do battle at 7:30 on Thursday night. Our Ethan Frank, who just turned 22, will have updates from Blacksburg throughout the game. For Chilekasi, Adele, and Sam Reis, I'm Austin Barach. Thank you so much for watching.